Hey everyone, welcome to another Sacred Cow BBQ. It's Thursday, January 14th. I'm Patricia Aiken, an average host with exceptional guests. Tonight we're going to be unwinding more of the Harney County situation. Ryan Bundy agreed to join us for an update. That'll probably happen on the second hour, but before I get to that, I want to introduce my guest and then unwind a couple of the stories right off the bat. And so I was over at a gun store here in Las Vegas this week because it's where Assemblywoman Michelle Fiore broadcast her radio show from. And I was with a friend who's a supporter of hers, and I think I'm a supporter of hers because of the Second Amendment and what she stands for and what she's tried to do. I was over looking for some pepper spray. Actually, I was looking for some pepper gel. And so I asked a man that was standing there, hey, do you know if they have any pepper gel? And I mean, it was just like the universe was speaking. And this man started talking to me, and we had just such a fabulous conversation. And what he knew that I said, hey, you have got to come on the show this week. And so it's my pleasure to welcome a firearms expert and actually personal protection expert, and that's Norm France. Norm, welcome to the barbecue.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. I mean, that was quite a comment. Before we get to Second Amendment stuff and personal protection, let's talk for a minute. I want to unwind a story that went around, and you know, when we make a mistake in what we report, we fess up to it right away. There's enough corruption to go around. We don't have to create any that's not there. And so there was some research that came out that the sheriff in Harney County's name is Dave Ward. He goes by Dave Ward. And there was some research done that showed that there was a Dave Ward at the BLM that was involved with the Hammonds. And so that looked a little suspicious to us, but on closer investigation, it turns out that Sheriff Ward served in the military from 98 to 2002, and it was 99 that the Dave Ward was active with the BLM. So it's a different Dave Ward. So I just want to unwind that. Of course, I'm not real thrilled with the fact that he's an appointed sheriff and not an elective sheriff. Do you have an opinion on that, Norm?
Well, I think the people who represent any county or state, I think the people need to have a voice in that decision-making process. I also think they should be citizens of this country. That's a pretty big deal. I mean, you have countries like India, Pakistan, and this where everybody has a photo ID, yet they're making $3 a month in pay. So if we can hand out EBT debit cards to people, things like that, why can't we issue everybody an ID?
Because we don't want to. The bottom line is we don't want to. Right.
There you go. There you go.
Exactly.
But the big thing is the people need to have a voice, and for someone to just go and say, hi, I'd like to appoint this person, you know there's got to be something going on there, okay? Because they're taking the people, the ones they represent, out of the picture. And that's just wrong. That's not what this country is all about. So.
No, exactly, but it's what it's become. So, like I said last week, and this is Tyra Antlich's tagline, putting the government back in its box, one tentacle at a time. And as someone else pointed out last week, that box is a 10 square mile box. And so they need to be back in the box. So I don't know if you're aware, but this was a big story this week, and we'll talk to Ryan about it later, and maybe even play this man's press conference because it was very good. I loved it. It was a man that got up and he followed the rules of the Native American talking stick. He spoke from his heart and was brief, so it was terrific. But this Michelle Fiore just sent this message yesterday, and it's kind of funny because I was, in my quiet time, I was really putting out that all the infiltrators and agent provocateurs would all be identified. They'd all be exposed. And then I came home, and I wasn't here very long when this came out. It was breaking news. Michelle Fiore said, I just got off the phone with the fire chief. Actually, he's the fire marshal of Burns, Chris Brills, myself. He was the Burns' fire chief from 1984 to 2006. When he retired in 2006, the county asked him to stay on as the fire marshal. According to the conversation I had with the chief today at 12:26 p.m. Pacific time, he informed me that the sheriff's office and Judge Grasty, who's as corrupt as they come, it seems, has been telling the community the militia has been following people and harassing people. Well, Chief Briles saw what he thought was the militia poking around the armory and following people, so he took it upon himself to pull them over. These men posing as militia were actually the FBI. And Chief Briles was so upset he just resigned as the county fire marshal. He's going public with his information, and we may delve into that later. But the reason I'm bringing this up when you're on the show, Norm, is because you have a relative or someone that you're close to who's an Oregon sheriff or has been an Oregon sheriff. Tell us what he had to say about this when he weighed in on it.
Yeah, well, it was my cousin. It was my cousin who used to be the Deschutes County sheriff, and he was reelected overwhelmingly. And one of the things that made him so popular was, for him, there had to be a crime to arrest somebody. So if he pulled someone over and it was a resident of Deschutes County and they had been drinking, if there was no damage done, no harm, no foul, no one was hurt, no property was damaged, that kind of thing, he didn't slap the cuffs and haul them into jail. The jail was for actual criminals. He would take these people and take them home and make sure that their vehicle got back to them. So
a victimless crime. He refused to arrest people for victimless crimes, which are non-crimes. Good for him.
Absolutely. And that was one of the things that made him so popular. And he actually ended up being a chief of police over in Powers, Oregon. And I want to say a little town outside of McMinnville, Bundy, where everybody just loved the guy because he was a people person. He understood that he was there to serve and protect, not to intimidate and harass. And I think that's one of the things that made him so popular. And that's why he won re-election so easily. But he had done quite a bit of things, but he understood people's civil rights and what the country was founded on. So, I think he's shaking his head right now going, how could you let this happen? I mean, to me, it looks like the federal government is trying to turn this into something more like another Ruby Ridge type situation.
Right. They'd love a Ruby Ridge or another Waco, but as my friend John says, no more Wacos.
Absolutely. But a lot of things that people don't understand is if you don't take a stand, they'll continue to do it until you have no rights. It's like I want to say, those who give up a little bit of freedom for security, hey, they're not going to have either eventually.
Exactly.
And that's kind of the way the country's going right now. And so you've got to take a stand, and I applaud the Bundys for what they're doing. I know you'll get a lot of media out there saying the people don't want them there. Well, come on, they're just wagging the dog. I can assure you the people out there are supportive of what the people are doing. I think they're just afraid to come right out and say it because they've seen the tyranny of the government up there in Oregon. And I used to spend my summers in Steens Mountain area, Hart Mountain Antelope Refuge, all that up there because that's where I grew up in Western Oregon. But the day school got out, hey, we were over in Central Eastern Oregon, Burns, Steens Mountain, that area, and that's what we did for the summer.
Well, then, Norm, you're old enough to remember Burns and Harney County when it was very prosperous, right?
Absolutely, where you could go and talk to the ranchers and the people would say hello. Everybody was friendly. There wasn't fences because Oregon didn't require it. and you could go about your way and go and travel on public land and not be harassed. Now they want you to have a permit to drive off a paved road, things like this, and it's kind of the same way in Nevada. You need a permit to be off-road. So it's just more of the government infringing on your rights.
Now you're not some like hippie from Oregon that was, maybe out in Antelope and stuff like that with the, Raj. No, you're actually a former Marine?
Yes, I was in the Marine Corps for 6.5 years, and people often say, well, how could it be 6.5 years? Well, I was in for 2.5 years, and they offered me a duty station in Hawaii, but the stipulation was I had to have 4 years left to go there. So they discharged me and re-enlist me on the same day for 4 more years. So I have an honorable discharge. Actually, the house I bought with a VA loan, and I can tell you that most of my family is in law enforcement growing up. So I had respect for the law. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of good ones out there, and I support the police where I live. But at the same time, they need to stand up for the rights of their citizens, which is not what's happening in Harney County. It's more of a federal operation with a bunch of yes men shaking their head, and it's pretty pathetic that the man doesn't have the stones to stand up to the federal government.
Right. So what did your cousin say? Did you ask him, what would you do in this situation? What was his response?
I'm sorry?
Did you ask your cousin what he would have done in this situation if this was going on in his county?
No, I didn't. I can just tell you, speaking from experience of growing up and the stories, things like that this is something that he wouldn't do. So, no, I haven't actually spoken to him on the matter.
Well, I understand that Sheriff Ward has tried to call some other sheriffs in and have to ask them to come, shame these people and get rid of the people that are occupying the wildlife refuge. So we'll be talking with Ryan more about that. They're turning him down apparently. So I'm happy to see that. But the one thing that I know that they're asking for is more men. They need men to rotate into this situation. So we'll be covering that at the top of the next hour. We'll be going over some of this with Ryan, and I hope you can stay with us, Norm. But right now, I want to talk. They are vilifying guns as much as they are militia. Oh, these people are heavily armed. Every time you see they have guns, like it's a bad thing.
Well, that's because apparently they've never read the Constitution or the Second Amendment, where it says the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, they're always saying, well, we need these common sense gun laws. No, what they're trying to do is the same they want to do with all of your liberties, which is you take a little bit at a time until eventually there's nothing left. Okay, shall not be infringed. Then they'll say, well, the NRA and these people, they need to make concessions. They need to come to a common. You know what? The American people have already made plenty of concessions with regard to the Second Amendment, such as the NFA. You need a tax stamp to have a full auto weapon or a suppressor. Now, in Europe, if you want to own a suppressor, hunting, it's required to use a suppressor in a lot of countries in Europe.
What's a suppressor?
Well, a lot of people, layman term would be a silencer.
Okay.
It was actually named that by its creator. His name was Hiram, and he actually called it a silencer. But now these days, the correct terminology is suppressor. But in order to buy any of these, you have to submit plenty of documentation, passport photos, fingerprint cards, fill out a questionnaire, send the government a check for $200, and then you wait anywhere from 2 to 9, 12 months even before they'll send you a stamp back saying you can go purchase that item now. And the entire time that item, you have to pay for it up front. So you pay for it up front and you wait a year, then you go back to the same place you purchased it and they will hand it to you. And you have to have that documentation with you while you have the suppressor or even a full automatic weapon. But I guess my point on the Second Amendment is they already have background checks, and this gun show loophole thing is just a bunch of crap. I just bought a firearm at a gun show not even 3 months ago, and guess what? I stood there and waited while they did the NCIC basic or instant background check. So I don't know where they're coming up with, well, these guys are selling guns and not doing a background check, because when I bought mine, I underwent the background check. And so that's just another part of an infringement on your personal rights, which we've made plenty of concessions. And if they think that more gun laws are going to make the streets safer, well, I got news for you. If these laws are supposed to prevent gun crime, geez, maybe we should, I don't know, outlaw drugs like crystal meth and heroin and cocaine so that nobody has that either. We see how well that's worked out, okay? I mean, Obama and his guns that he sent through to Fast and Furious have killed way more people than 99.9% of the American gun owners. So criminals aren't going to obey the law is the bottom line, so why create more laws?
Well, that's because we really want to disarm the populace. You know, in South Africa, what they did is they said, do not register your firearms, because firearm registration leads to firearm confiscation. And they actually confiscated people. You know, the South Africans were, Boers were so compliant that they all turned in, okay, I'll turn in my guns. And now
you have to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, now they have an empty warehouse that used to be full of people's guns, but you can still go to the police station and rent one if you need to. You can rent a gun if you need to go out and commit a crime.
Absolutely. And no matter how many laws they make, criminals will still get guns.
Well, let's look at all the facts. I mean, I think we're probably preaching to the choir here, but when Australia outlawed, you know, guns, the crime rate went up.
And that's been proven true across the United States. I mean, you look at Chicago, the nation's strictest gun laws, Baltimore, I mean, New York City. All of these places are Democrat-controlled with the strictest gun laws in the country, and yet the murder rate per capita is just off the charts compared to other major metropolitan areas. You don't see 100 and, like last weekend in Chicago, 110 people were shot. 11 died last count that I heard. That was in one weekend. And yet
and what were they shot with? Registered guns or non-registered guns?
Stolen guns.
Stolen, right.
Or, you know, most of them go unsolved in Chicago, so it's tough to tell, hey, was it a registered weapon? No, most of it in Chicago is gang-on-gang violence or gang-on-innocent bystander violence. And so that goes to show that the bad guys, the gang members, they still have their ways to get their firearms, handguns, rifles, whatever you want to talk about. But all they've done is made the law-abiding citizen nothing more than a helpless victim.
Right. When you go into places that say no guns allowed, I don't want to go in there.
Absolutely. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like in the state of Nevada, you'll see a lot of places like banks and restaurants and things like this.
Casinos.
I can tell you that they will post signs that say no firearms allowed. Well, I got news for you. Those signs have no weight of law. In other words, if it's not a county government building, that kind of thing, where it's posted that says per Nevada revised statute 138 point whatever or 162 point whatever. I don't remember the exact Nevada revised statute, but if it's not a city, county government building or airport, those signs have no force of law. You can still carry concealed in there. Now, here's the kicker. If someone was to be made aware that you were carrying a firearm, the store owner or company employee can ask you to leave. And if they do that, you are required to leave. Otherwise, you could be cited for trespass. But other than that, those signs mean nothing to me, other than to say, hey, I should probably take my business elsewhere because this person believes I should be unarmed and just be a good little victim.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty amazing. So someone
and you talk about the gun control. Well, you have the killing fields of Cambodia, the Khmer Rouge. You have Mao in China kill over 20 million of his own people. Same thing in the Soviet Union. And when did all this happen? After they confiscated your firearms.
Absolutely. Dictators agree that gun control works.
Excuse me?
Dictators agree that gun control works.
Absolutely, and that's what they're trying to do to America. So there's three kinds of people. There's sheep who just go about their business and they just don't know any better, and they don't know that they don't know any better. Then you have the predators or the wolf, that kind of thing, who he's hunting the sheep. And then you have the sheepdog who stands guard over the sheep. And that's the American gun owner. That's who you want to be. You don't want to be the predator. The predator, hey, that's the criminal, the guy with the stolen gun, doing illegal things, stuff like that, killing people, etc. Then you have the sheep that think, well, guns are scary, they're dangerous. Well, a lot of people, when they first learned to drive a car, thought it was scary. But they learned to drive the car, so now they're not afraid of the car. And so a lot of the people that are spewing all this anti-gun rhetoric, they've never even been exposed to firearms. They're just going by what they've heard or what they've read or what their little agenda in college taught them, that firearms are bad. No,
well, I have to admit that my own Marxist sisters, at least one of them, think that only police should have guns.
Yes, and that's how 20 million people got killed in China. That's how 40 million people got killed in Russia or Soviet Union. Because why? Hey, the police were the only ones that had guns. Now, if that's not one way to impose your will on someone, I don't know what is. I just know that I'm 50 years old right now, and I like to think I'm in pretty good shape. I try to eat right, do that kind of thing, exercise, and be outdoorsy, active. But I can also tell you that there's a lot of people out there a whole lot bigger than I am. I'm 5'11", 185 pounds. But at the same time, I'm old, so I'm getting a little bit slow. And you know what? A firearm is an equalizer when you have 2 or 3 people out there trying to do you harm.
Or someone that's crazed on drugs.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, I do a lot of stuff on the law enforcement side, where I do a lot of case study things. And there's actually been cases where a police officer shot someone that was on PCP 42 times and then finally headshot him to stop the threat. And the guy was on PCP. And personal experience, while I was in the Marine Corps the last year and a half I was in, they got new airplanes. I was an avionics guy. And I was also the legal clerk and a bailiff for court martials. And one of the members of my own squadron was all messed up on PCP. He jumped off the top of an aircraft hangar and bounced off the ground. And he had multiple broken bones, and yet he felt no pain. He was still trying to get up. And so you need something to equalize the threat from more than one person, or even one person, and a firearm's like a parachute. If you need one but don't have one, you're probably never going to need one again because you're going to be dead. And that's the hard facts. And for me to not be able to protect my family, I'm sorry, that will never happen, because that's when America went and popped a gasket over a tax on a breakfast beverage. Well, you know what? This is a whole lot more important than that. So I'm just saying it's a fitting tribute to Revolution Radio.
That's right. Well, since you mentioned that's a great segue, Norm. I've got to let everybody know you're listening to Sacred Cow BBQ. My guest tonight is Norm France. You can tell he's talking sense, knows what he's talking about, and I'm so glad he's here. And this is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. We are listener and volunteer supported. So I want to ask you to go over, make a donation, freedomslips.com. You can buy some of the cool stuff that's there, get the archives, do something to support the station. If everybody just gave $2 a month, we would never have to make these little announcements. So heck, we'd probably we could expand and do a whole lot more. So I thank everybody for their support, and I want to get back to talking with Norm here. Norm, let's talk about, you're talking about the equalizer. Well, for women, being armed that is the tremendous equalizer right there. Because very, very rarely, unless you got a 90-year-old guy, are you going to be able to overpower a man your own size, much less someone taller and stronger than you are, right?
Yes, and that's nothing derogatory or anything trying to put down women. It's just a fact that men, in most instances, not always, but most instances, men will overpower the woman. And that's just physical traits. It's nothing. I'm not trying to say anything negative towards women.
Oh, don't worry. I'm not sending Gloria Steinem after you. Don't worry.
Oh, well, that's okay. I don't think she'd like to stop by my house anyways, because we meet her with 240 pounds of technology. See if she can outrun those shepherds.
Yeah.
But that's one of the big things that I focus on with some of the things that I do here in the Las Vegas Valley. Is one of the biggest thing I want to get out there to people, because I see a lot of this when I'm in the firearms stores around town, is a husband coming in and saying, you know what, I want to buy a gun for my wife. Well, let me just stop you right there, because that's really not how it should go down. That's because purchasing a firearm, first of all, you want to make sure that you have the knowledge of, yes, this is something that I want to invest $400, $200, $300, $500, $700, up over $1,000 on one firearm. The price is vary significantly, but the big thing is with people buying guns for their wives. Don't go and buy them the nice, pretty pink gun because you think she's going to love it because it's going to accessorize with her purse or something along those lines. And so you go in there and you ask the salesman, hey, I'm looking for a gun for my wife. He's probably going to point you to something like a Glock 43, which is a great firearm, or something along those lines, or maybe the Beretta Nano, which has a beautiful pink frame where you can get it in purple or a couple other colors, teal, that kind of thing, baby blue. But here's my advice. Before you go and do that and decide you want to buy something for your wife, take her out to one of these gun stores here in the Las Vegas Valley. There's a whole mess of them out there where I don't know if I can say their names on here or not. Is that okay, Patricia?
Yeah, go ahead.
But there's Green Valley Gun Range over off of 215 and Gibson on Casilla Way, which they have gun rentals and an indoor firing range. And if you go to their website, you'll see that they have ladies' night specials, things like that. Discount Firearms also has a ladies' night where it's $20 and you can shoot the handguns that they have there. And one of the big things you want to do with a new shooter is start them off with some basic instruction and a light caliber, because you want to find out if they're recoil sensitive or not. So start them out with the 22. There's nothing wrong with the 22. I can tell you that they will take down a person, no problem, but it's all about shot placement. So you start them out with a 22, and then you let them shoot, a 380. Then you shoot a 9 millimeter. Then you let them shoot a 40. But you stop when they become uncomfortable. And you might be surprised that a lot of women prefer full-size guns over those nice little hoity-toity designer Louis Vuitton pink guns or purple guns or whatever you want.
Rhinestone-coated.
Yes. And I will tell you there is a manufacturer out there that, they make a lot of guns or one model, and they have probably 50 different variations of that model. And that's a Sig Sauer P238 380. And they have it in that 938, which is a 9 millimeter caliber handgun. And so for small guns, I love that little P238. Yes, it's a 380, and a lot of people will say, well, it's not a 45. Well, I carry a 45 because I can handle the recoil, and I find it pleasant to shoot. But a woman might not, because it is heavy gun to carry, that kind of thing. But take your wife to the gun range. Make it a date night. Go out to dinner or go to the gun range and go out to dinner afterwards and discuss what you did. And that way you can get some feedback on, what did she like? Because a lot of these places will let you try out a bunch of different firearms for a very small investment, $20 plus some ammunition. So you find out what caliber she's comfortable with. Then you let her shoot a small gun in that caliber, a medium frame gun, and a large frame gun. And you might be surprised that she might decide, she likes the larger ones, like something along a Glock 19, a Glock 17, something like that. Or it doesn't have to be a Glock. Springfield XDM, great weapon. But that's, I guess the point I'm saying is I'm telling you what I like, and that's not going to be what your wife probably likes. So you need to get her out there, let her shoot a bunch of different guns before you make the investment. But one of the biggest things is she has to be comfortable shooting it. So if she gets some good instruction, and I will tell you that a lot of my employees have asked me to train their wife because they don't want to be in the middle of the, no, honey, not that way. We're sorry you're sleeping in the doghouse tonight, dear.
Yeah, it's like teaching your wife to drive. Not a good idea for your
absolutely
not a good idea for your marriage. Listen, I just got to backtrack a little bit to get off the subject, just to let you know. Someone texted me a comment here, and they said states need to nullify federal laws like Wyoming and Arizona. Do you have a comment about that?
Absolutely. The federal government, if no one's noticed, their only motivation is to get bigger. And with getting bigger, all they're going to do is impose more rules. It's just like the tax situation. Way back in the 1800s, I wasn't given 43% of my income to the government. Or, they decided to start building roads and things like that. You know what? You weren't given 40% of your income to the federal government. Yet we still had roads. We have Hoover Dam, things like that. And now the government just sticks their nose in everything. And on that, I'll say solar energy. You had all these companies come to Las Vegas and start wanting to, you can get these solar panels installed, and you're going to not have an electric bill because the federal government's going to subsidize this, and you get 20 years to pay for it, and it'll be less than your electric bill. So all these people hopped on the bandwagon. Well, guess what? It was so successful that the federal government decided, we need to stick our nose in it. So they go and put the squeeze on the public utility, which Nevada Power is, and they tell them, you know what, you can probably get more money from these people. So now all these people that invested money thinking it was going to be a 20-year layout, and this is how much money we're going to save, find out that the Nevada Power, which is a public utility company, decided, well, we need to change your base rates on this and how much you pay, things like that. So it's just another idea of the government overreach.
Right.
So
I've got a great quote to share. It's and my friend Rich Iverson shared this with me. It's from a Nobel laureate economist named F.A. Hayek. It says the history of government management of money has, except for a few short happy periods, been one of incessant fraud and deception. And of course, Aesop said it best: we hang the petty thieves and elect the great ones to public office.
That's right. And the thing is, I don't know if you've seen that meme out there where they have the politicians wearing the NASCAR race jackets with all their sponsors on it.
Right.
They're there for them, because if you think about it, the president's salary, okay, so he's getting $200,000 a year or whatever it is nowadays. I think it's up way above that. But so they're going to take a 4-year job, $200,000 a year, and I'm just using this as an example. So they go and spend $600 million to get a job that pays $200,000 a year. If that doesn't tell you something's rotten in Denmark, well, I'm sorry, but you need to put your helmet back on or something. I mean, it's just
we got a bridge in Arizona to sell you.
You what?
We've got a bridge to sell you.
Absolutely, yeah, that oceanfront property in Oklahoma, things like that.
Right.
But the government's never going to be satisfied, because they're always trying to figure out ways to spend your money. And then they're going to tell you how the government did this and did. No, the government didn't do any of it. The government took money from you and did with it what they want. In other words, they're saying they know how to spend your money better than you. And for the American people to put up with that crap is simply ridiculous. And it's time everybody grows a pair.
Right. Well, I'm with you, Norm. And so thank you so much for that little sidetrack here. We've got a lot to talk about and not a lot of time to do it. But I want to share with people, because I work in a gun-free zone. I've taken a corporate job recently, and I'm not allowed to carry a firearm. And you gave me some great tips on some alternatives that people can do that they can't stop you from doing at work, right?
Absolutely. There's lots of things people don't know about. One of them is a knife that has a blade of less than 3.5 inches is not considered a dangerous weapon. Okay, so you can carry that. There's also saber red pepper spray, or pepper gel, and basically the difference is the pepper gel performs much better in a windy environment than pepper spray. But I tell you, the products that Saber Red puts out, they have a UV dye in them, and I can tell you that I've used them, so I'm commenting from experience on this, is that Saber Red pepper gel, and it's good for lots of things other than self-defense against an attacker. Well, that's one of the great things it is used for, okay? One of the other things that a lot of people don't think about is stray dogs. I'm an animal lover. I have 2 German Shepherds. Hey, animals are great. So I'm out walking my dogs every day, following the law, don't want to get in any trouble, and my dogs are on a leash, and here comes Fido trotting up off a leash. Well, my dogs are protection dogs, and they don't take kindly to any other dogs entering their airspace. So when that dog hits the 6-foot mark, my dog go ballistic. And pepper spray is one way to deter a dog from coming up to you. And I can tell you, I sprayed Siberian Husky, Golden Retriever, Pit Bull, Rottweiler, what's another one? Doberman. I sprayed all these dogs with Saber Red pepper gel or pepper spray, and I can tell you it stopped them in their tracks. And it wasn't that I was spraying the dog to be mean to the dog. I wasn't. I was doing it to protect my dog from getting injured, which I don't think they would have, but there's no sense in finding out. and at the same time protect that other dog from being injured, because I have two dogs and most likely they're going to injure the other one severely. So the pepper gel is a great thing. The pepper gel, like I said, performs better in the wind than pepper spray. But I'll tell you, Saber Red's a great product. There's another product out there called Fox Pepper Spray. There's been some reports, and some people are making claims that Fox Pepper Spray, that it actually will cause permanent eye damage if you get it in the eyes of humans or dogs. I haven't verified that yet at this time. But one of the things you want to check, and I can tell you that Saber Red, when you squeeze that trigger on Saber Red, it will shoot a solid stream. So it does very well in the wind. But you want to watch, because there's a lot of out there that you have a cone pattern of spray. And I can tell you in the Las Vegas Valley, with the wind that we have here usually blowing pretty well, you do not want to have pepper spray that has a cone pattern to it. So make sure you check that before you buy. And the big thing is, with pepper spray or pepper gel, do not leave it in your vehicle. In the summer here, it will explode. And it's not fun to come and open your car door and get a face full of pepper spray in your face.
That is a great tip for here in Nevada or any place, we're in summer weather. So I want to ask you, we're running out of time, but don't worry, if you can stay with us, we can talk about this some more. But I just want to ask you about the taser situation. You showed me a taser that just blew my mind.
Yes, it's called the C2 taser. That's the Charlie 2 taser or C2 taser. And one of the neat things about that is it comes with a cartridge. It usually comes with, depending on which package you buy, they have a deluxe one, things like that. We'll have 2 cartridges plus 1 trainer cartridge, because you want to, just like the pepper spray, you want to go out and practice with it so you know what to expect if you ever have to use it. And the C2 taser comes with 2 cartridges plus a trainer. You can find them for right around $325. But the neat thing about it is the C2 taser, it shoots 2 5.56 projectiles, basically, with wire leads on the end at roughly 100 miles an hour. So it fires these projectiles, and it's 1.5 million volts. It'll pretty much put anybody down pretty quickly. But the big thing about it is it's for defensive use. So the way they teach you to use it is, you fire the taser, you hit the subject, now the subject is going down. It's going to shock that subject for 30 seconds. And it does that for one reason. They want you to set the taser down and run away. That's why it shocks them for 30 seconds. It's giving you an escape route.
My friend said that's called shoot and scoot.
Absolutely. So you have that 30-second getaway thing. But the great thing that the C2 taser folks do is, if you do use it in a defensive situation and you file a police report stating that, hey, I had to use this in self-defense, you can send them a copy of the police report, and they will send you a brand new taser to replace the one that you left on the ground somewhere defending yourself. And that says a lot about a company when they're willing to back their product like that. But so say you miss with the taser, and now the cartridge has been expunged and the guy's charging you. Just because that cartridge went bang and you missed doesn't mean that you're defenseless now, because all you have to do is push that button on the taser again, and it will start shocking for another 30 seconds, just like a stun gun, but now it's a contact weapon. So
awesome.
With the contact...
You told me about, I know we're running out of time, so I just want to cover one more thing in this segment if we can, and we can go back to the taser, because you're a wealth of information here. But you showed me something that looks like a cell phone, and you told me about it.
Yes, it looks just looks like an iPhone 5. You can find them at stores around town. One of them that I can think of off the top of my head is Lock and Load on Eastern and Serene, right off the 215 on the South Beltway. They look like an iPhone 5. They have a little switch down on the bottom where you plug it in to charge it. But these you actually charge on the top, and they have a flashlight with them, and they have a stun gun. But it looks just like an iPhone 5, so it's very inconspicuous while you're out walking through a parking lot with it in your hand. It doesn't look like a weapon. And it's I don't remember if it's 3 or 700,000 volts, but I can tell you that I told the guy I wouldn't buy it unless I could try it, and I did, and I put him on the ground, and I said, "Oh, okay, I'll buy it."
Well, so with this, do you have to be against bare skin, or does it go through clothing?
It will go through clothing. It actually went through his light. He had 2 layers of clothes on. He had on blue jeans, and then he had on a long sleeve shirt with a short sleeve shirt over it, and it went through both of those. But it is a contact weapon. But if budget is an issue, those things are $30. And I've had one for 2 years, and hey, you know what? It still works, and it's $30.
And so you're walking out to your car, you've got it in your hand like you're talking on your cell phone, or like you've got your cell phone in your hand. Someone comes up to you, and they're not going to come face you. They're going to come from behind to attack you. Then you have something there just to turn and use on them. I say that's brilliant.
Absolutely. It will put them down quickly, because the person I did it on was 235 pounds. And he went down like a sack of potatoes. So it does work, and it's just another less lethal alternative, you know. So the big thing I want to stress on anything you do is get the training, because I know lots of people who own firearms, and they couldn't tell me the last time they went out and fired it. Well, I don't want to be that guy that says, I was too lazy to learn to defend this, and something happened to a member of my family. So get out there and practice within your budget. You don't have to spend $1 million to be safe, but you shouldn't put it off, because
you're on the board of a organization that I admire, and that's Front Sight over in Pahrump. They put in some great training, don't they?
Last year they trained over 200,000 people. I can tell you that I have lots of friends who are members out there. Actually, Michelle Fiore is a life member out there as well. So God bless her on that. But I have some friends of mine up in Canada who they're SWAT trainers and special ops guys, and they actually go out there and do the course. And one of the things they say they love about it is they make it fun. It's not a military boot camp type mentality. It's, hey, they cater to mostly a lot of people from Europe, that kind of thing, or California, places where they can't have firearms, aren't so readily accessible. They go out there and train, and they will teach you their way of doing things. And one of the things you want to understand is not everything works for everybody, but you go out there and they'll teach you their methods of doing it, and they will make you better. And there's lots of different things out there that you can do. Their website is frontsight.com, and it'll explain all the different memberships, things like that. You can sign up for newsletters, and they'll send you specials every now and then where, hey, you can go out there and take a 4-day course or something for like $200 or whatever it is. But they have great training videos where they say, here's what the guy did right, here's what the guy did wrong. And you have to be open-minded, because some of the things they do, hey, that works great for them. It doesn't mean it works that way for everybody. But it's good to know more than one way to do something. So it's kind of the rule of, hey, if you have a plan, you better have a backup plan, because the first plan's usually not going to work.
Right. I like Plan B. I'm a specialist in Plan B myself.
Absolutely, and everyone should have a Plan B, because, hey, a lot of times it's a matter of life and death. And
there's worse things than dying, Norm. I just want to point that out. Yes, if you're gonna die, big deal. Okay, I'm sorry, it's sad. I have a belief in the afterlife, but you could be maimed for life. You could be brain damaged. You could be tortured. There's a lot of things that can happen that are a whole lot worse than dying. that you're going to have to
Absolutely,
live with.
like being a slave to your government.
Right.
I'm sorry. I want to be a free man, and I will give up my freedom to nobody. So, hey, you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. That type of thing. You leave me alone. If I cause harm to someone, then fine. Hey, let the law come in and do what they have to do. Other than that, leave me alone.
Well, I think that's what all Americans want. We want to be left alone.
Absolutely. And these people, they hear all this crap about what the government's going to give them. The government isn't giving you squat, people. They're taking it from someone else and giving it to you. So eventually they make you dependent upon them. And the gun control, affordable health care, affordable my ass. Okay, excuse me. But the company I work for, when I started working for them, I paid $40 a month for medical, dental, and vision. Now, 17 years later, last year I paid a little over $200 a month for that same thing. Well, this year was the big Obamacare Stick It To Me plan, so my insurance rate's more than double. And that's for my private insurance because they know they can get away with it. But
Norm, we're out of time this hour. Hold on. Hey, everybody, we'll be back with Sacred Cow BBQ. Stand by. Welcome back to Sacred Cow BBQ. I'm your host, Patricia Aiken, and my guest, Norm Francis, has stayed on with us. And I've been able to dial in Ryan Bundy from up at the Harney County Wildlife Refuge. Ryan, welcome back to Sacred Cow BBQ.
Well, thank you. And by the way, that's the Harney County Resource Center.
Oh,
renamed.
I sit corrected. Thanks. So, hey, it's been a huge week up there for you folks, and I understand you at least had a little time to unwind a little bit tonight and had a barbecue. So I think that's great. That the spin is still going on hot and heavy, but I think the story of the week was Chris Briles. Do you want to give folks a little more of an update on that?
Well, from what I understand, is he was serving as the fire chief or so, and the Judge Grassi up here. It's interesting. He's the judge of the county, but then he's also serving as a county commissioner, and so that's quite the conflict of interest there, and joining of separation of powers by one man filling both positions. And he's become known as, the Harney County King. He thinks he's running the whole show. Anyway, this fire chief, I don't know all the details in perfect order, but anyway, he had a run-in with him. And, well, what really happened is he caught 6 vehicles at the armory and then followed them and chased them down, and come to find out they were FBI agents at the local armory posing as militiamen. And so trying to stir the pot, trying to make it look like we're causing trouble when it was them. Anyway, roundabout things went, and he resigned his position. I'm not going to participate in this type of baloney. So. Well,
good for him. Another man of principle joins the team. I love that. And I want to thank you again for handing the microphone, your phone over to Lavoy Finicum last week. He did a fabulous job, made you guys look great, and I really appreciated that. Thank you again for that, Ryan. He gave us a great update. So here's the story. They're threatening you folks with $75,000 a day in fines that you're there at the resource center. What do you guys make of that?
Spending the money, not us. Let them pay their own bills. They don't want to pay. All they're doing is that's the money. I assume that they're paying all the FBI or extra agents or extra sheriff's departments they're bringing in. Well, there's no need for all that. They're the ones spending the money to pay their own bills.
Yeah, exactly. Well, some people are saying that with this $75,000 in fines, that they can fine you, that then they can have a back door to come and arrest you if you don't pay. But I don't think that's going to fly. Do you think they're still threatening? There's still a major threat here. And, of course, I pray for liberty and justice for all every day and for your safety. And I'm sure lots and lots of people are. So, where does it stand? You guys have uncovered some amazing paperwork, some documents that should that an honest judge, and I know there's honest judges going on. There's actually some tribunals going on in the Ninth Circuit right now where they're really reviewing cases of corrupt judges. And so I think, I have faith for the Hammonds to get out here soon. Do you?
Well, we're working on it. There's more and more stuff coming forth that will exonerate them. Like I said, they never committed a crime to begin with. This is all a matter of corruption that put them there to begin with. So
yeah, I say for people that don't live in the West and don't understand what's going on, this is like being arrested and sent to federal prison for mowing your front yard.
Pretty much. Like I said, I haven't spent much time in the Midwest or back east. I know the grass grows there without any effort, and they just got to keep it mowed all the time to make everything look good. So you mow a little grass when you got nothing else to do type program. But here, the burning is common practice, common custom and culture. The Native Americans and ranchers have been doing it for centuries, and you just have to do it every few years. The old grass grows up that doesn't get eaten. It becomes old and decadent, and it lays over in the winter snow, and then prevents new growth from coming up. So the only way to get rid of that is to burn it, and it allows for new fresh growth to begin.
And it also adds carbon to the soil, which we desperately need in the desert.
Sure, the ash from the old falls down and creates fertilizer for the new. Anyway, so that's all that was going on, and so there's no crime. Again, there was no crime. The definition of arson has to include malice, which malice is ill intent. It also, the definition of arson is also put together for somebody burning somebody's house down. Range fire just doesn't fit into that.
Well, then half the BLM should go to jail because of the damage they've created on private property.
Well, they cause trouble all the time and never answer for it.
You don't see the EPA in jail for their spill into the Colorado River.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Ryan, we know they don't belong in jail, and I think the congressman from there is pretty darn weak, saying he needs a pardon from Obama. That's just nonsense. There's so many Brady violations in this of evidence that's been withheld that the prosecutor knew about, the first prosecutor, and that would have, if they had presented that evidence, that the jury would have definitely not found against the Hammonds.
Well, there's so much.
Go ahead, Norm.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I said there was so much of that went on. I understand that in the trial they give the prosecuting side 6 days to present their evidence, but then the defense side only had 1 day to present their evidence. And there was plenty of evidence that wasn't brought in because they weren't allowed, equal amount of time to bring it in. Simply for the fact of them even being charged with those crimes is an atrocity, because they simply, again, by definition, they just simply didn't fit. There was no crime. There was no crime, and yet they're being charged with the crime that doesn't even fit the description of what was going on.
No, and just say, and then they have all these government hacks and attorneys coming up and saying what a wonderful judge Michael Hogan is. Oh, he was a very experienced judge, and and that's the story that has not gotten out, especially when Ammon's done, CNN, and they never talk about the real issue here. And the real issue is there's no crime and that the court was 100% corrupt.
Yeah, that's pretty much what's going on.
And the reason is for mineral rights. Is that how you're reading it?
No, I'm not certain on that. No.
Okay.
Everyone wants to bring that stuff in, and I'm not sure that there's not an issue there, but it's simply over, power and control. And they're wanting all this land, all of the land, and just wanting to make this one great big park. Kick out all the people and make some big old park that.
Well, that's what we call they want to preserve the land for future generations. That's what we call.
I always say that's a bunch of baloney. I mean, what good is it to preserve it for future generations if this generation can enjoy it?
Exactly. All they're doing is locking it away from future generations. I just go crazy whenever I hear the greenies get up and talk like that. But so here's the situation. What needs to happen? I know they brought in a common law judge, someone in the media is going crazy calling him self-appointed. I know you've got a committee of safety set up, and I know Chris Briles is on that committee. And so what's going on? Does this judge come at you and Ammon's request?
No. Yeah, and I did meet him. I haven't spent much time with him to know exactly which direction he's going. I know we've also been working with the NLA, working on these same things. And anyway, I need to catch up on the status of what's going on there.
Okay, that's National Liberty Alliance, and they promote common law grand juries and things like that. And my question with a common law grand jury is who's going to enforce the verdict? Who's going to enforce those things? Well, it has to come down to it has to be the sheriff. And if you have a corrupt sheriff, nothing's going to happen like we have in Clark County. So I don't see that as a resolution there. Now, Ryan, I know you put in what would you say was the biggest thing that happened this week? I know you need men up there. I know you need people to come up and rotate in and give some other people that need to leave a break. What did people need to bring? Why should they come? Let us know.
Well, just having people here, there's safety in numbers, and it brings legitimacy to the cause. To know that they're here. And we are doing lots of things. We're involved with, other things. We're, going about claiming this land, and part of claiming it is putting your name on it. So we're replacing signs and taking signs down that show federal presence and replacing them with signs that show, county ownership or private ownership. And so that's part of the process part of claiming is putting your name on it.
Kind of reminds me of Recapture Canyon.
Yes, and then we're also cleaning up the property here and helping other neighbors around a little bit with their properties.
Okay, let's go to one that let's unwind one last story, and I'll let you go because I know you've had a long day up there. And that is the ranch. You went. I saw footage, and tell me if it's true or not true. And you went and cut some fence, and so a rancher could graze his animals back on that property. And now the rancher's coming out and saying he never gave you folks permission to do that, or never asked you to do that.
Well, there's several owners in the property and the ranch, and so yes, we have permission from one, but we haven't cleared it, I guess, with the others. And so now they were. Interestingly enough, we did do that action out there at the one's request, but then immediately they were pounded upon by the BLM, the FBI, and the state police within just minutes of us doing that. And they just simply weren't prepared for that quick a lash back. And so they kind of reeled backwards a little bit, not quite knowing how and what to do. But anyway, we're still in the good graces and communication with those ranchers, and hey, the fence is still open. So
okay, awesome. And let's make it really clear that you folks are a good 30 miles out of town. You're not creating any tension in town, and that any disturbance that's going on has been created by the feds. They're the ones that are staging out in town at the airport. They were at the schools and making residents nervous. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Any parting remarks?
Excuse me?
Nope. I think it's going.
Okay. If you feel like praying, I feel like praying with you.
Well, go ahead. I'll participate. I'll listen in.
Okay. Very good. Okay. We're just going to have a moment of prayer for safety. Creator of the universe, we bow before you tonight, and we thank you that you have set us up to be free. It's in our hearts. You've designed us to be free people, and yet we have wandered away off the path and let this happen in our country and in our world. And right now we say, we ask you to come to our aid and restore liberty and justice for all. I thank you for everything you've done for the situation in Harney County. I pray that you would continue, that there's safety, and that people would respond and know the truth, and this would turn things around, that this would be a place, a trophy. We can say this is where the enemy was put to flight, and that things started to return to liberty and justice for all and real freedom here in America, and it would spread around the world, that this criminal enterprise that we think of as a government would be put in its place and replaced by righteous men and women that would be doing your will and letting people live in freedom. And I just thank you now for everything that's happening there. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay. Ryan, I'm going to let you go. I know you've had a long day. Thank you so much for the update. Thanks for unwinding a couple of those stories. I'm going to bring in that land expert next, and if it's all right with you, I'll give him your phone number, and he'll be down to meet with you probably this weekend.
Yes, thank you, Patricia.
All right. Awesome, Ryan. God bless. Okay, everybody. I'm going to, Ken will be talking with Ryan. Yeah, I can let Ken can talk with Ryan by phone. Does he not want to come on and just share this with us? Shelley's asking me. So while I bring him in, Norm, you got anything you want to add on this?
Well, I just like to say that if you ever wondered what selective prosecution looked like, you're getting to be a part of history on that right now.
Exactly. And there's
have the
so
federal
much
government imposing its will on the people. I mean, there's all kinds of examples. Willie Nelson, big fine, some jail time for not paying taxes. Well, then you got Al Sharpton. Hey, last time I checked, he owed like $12 million, according to the press, anyways. And in regards to the press, there's a saying that goes, those who don't watch or read the news are uninformed. Those who watch the news or read the papers are misinformed. Because they all have an agenda. They all have an agenda. So it's selective prosecution. So it depends who you are.
Hey, Ken, this is Patricia from Sacred Cow BBQ. I've got our friend Norm France with us here tonight, and I appreciate Shelley, talking with you. I've just let Ryan go. They've had a long day. I know he didn't get breakfast until 6 o'clock tonight, and so I let him go, and he's looking forward to meeting with you this weekend. But I'll record this and send it over to him so he can hear what you're talking about. And I understand you've been looking into land confiscation and how they're getting away with this. So I'm going to, Norm and I are going to listen and ask questions as we need to. So have your way.
Okay. Well, I'm from Oregon. I'm up from Scappoose, and I spent 25 years in the field of architecture. And up until 2007, when basically they cut all the credit from the building and construction industries, and basically put me and the whole industry out of work within about a week's time. So since then, what I've done is I've delved into the mortgage. What I thought was mortgage fraud turned out being a whole economic coup. What I discovered and what I found out was everything that they've done, everything that's happened to us over the past 15 years is a result of these patents. And they patented every single process of banking, from legal documents to land confiscation to loan origination to everything. And what I've uncovered and discovered, and I can unequivocally prove with a preponderance times 1,000, is that the definition that we have of securitization, this general idea that loans are pooled and gathered and then sold to a Wall Street bank, and that Wall Street bank sets up a special purpose vehicle, which then deposits into the special purpose vehicle and sells certificates out of, is by and large a partially true definition of securitization, but it's not the whole definition of securitization. The expanded definition of securitization is that it takes one financial instrument and breaks it down into two separate components. And one is the first component is a lease agreement, and the second component is a remainder interest, which of course is an annuity. Now, what they've done with these properties, and what they've done with all these lands, is that they've had behind people's backs, they have securitized and created all these separate components, if you will, of all different aspects of land. So they will create behind people's backs, and they will seize these behind people's backs, their mineral rights, their water rights, their easement rights, and they've even gone so far as creating and selling mobile air rights. So they basically seized all the property behind a person's back, and they've done this through a means of what securitization really is. And what these agreements really are lease agreements. So what's happening here, and this is across the globe. This is not just the United States. This is global. What the banks have done, they have set up a system where they lease. Where they sell a borrower what they believe to be a mortgage, what's purported to be a mortgage, but it's actually an installment lease, meaning that there's no closing documents to these loans at all. It's an open-ended lease. And so what they're doing is they're taking these properties and they're capitalizing it for full value, for full amortized value. In other words, if it's a $500,000 principal, what they'll do is they'll pre-sell it to Wall Street at full amortized values for 30 years. So it might be like $2 million or something thereabouts. And so what you really have here is consumers and landowners and homeowners are not getting any kind of loan whatsoever. What they're actually getting is a lease. So what they've done here is
can I stop you for a second? I've got a question because just the differences in title. Most people think after they pay off their mortgage that they own the property, but they do not. Just try to pay your taxes, and you'll find out how weak your title actually was.
Yes, well, what they're doing, now that you mentioned taxes, what they're doing, and this can be proven as well, because Goldman Sachs has the patents on this, is what they're doing is they're canceling the debt, because when you sign those mortgage loan agreements, you believe that you have a mortgage loan and you have a ownership to this piece of property. You don't have that at all. What they're doing is they throw it on the back shelf and they're insuring it. Okay, they're insuring it 7 ways from Sunday, and what they've actually done is they've lured you into giving over the most basic form of a derivative. And the most basic form of a derivative is a slight alteration to a copyrighted work. In this instance, it's going to be the Fannie and Freddie Standard Uniform Instrument, which is the mortgage loan documents, right?
Right.
So what they've lured us into doing is giving over our signature so that they can sell it and use our signature to create multiple instruments off of our signature behind our backs and run it through a credit account that's concealed through the county and through the mortgage indexes that run in the county. And they're running up fees and compensation in the millions and millions of dollars. I mean, I know in our case, I've basically pinpointed at around $50 million on a $350,000 principal. I've seen it go as high as $1 billion. Because what they're doing is they're constantly recycling these and they're using our name to do so. And so what happens here is now because there is no loan, it's an installment lease. So down the road, when they default to, what they do is they look back to the original documents. Because remember, it never closed. Nothing ever closed. So they look back at the documents and say, oh, well, Joe isn't working now. Oh, Joe's not making $50,000 a year. Either fraud. So now what they got is they got fraud insurance. So they collect all the insurance on it. So then what happens is after they kick you out of your house, about 6 months later, what you get is you get a bill from the IRS and for taxes. Why do you get that bill? It's because they stuck up the third tax. They cancel the whole debt. And not only that, they get they basically take a person's living estate. They take all their mineral rights, they take all their water rights, they take all their easement rights, and they're making money over this, hand over fist, time and time and time again. It's the most massive fraud in the history of the civilized world, and we can prove it.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I don't have the in-depth part of that you do, but I know this summer, for instance, there were people in North Las Vegas here that were put a swimming pool on their own property, a home that they own. They built a swimming pool in their backyard, and the BLM came and cited them and said they weren't allowed to excavate to build the pool.
Oh my gosh! Oh my God! Yeah, because because somebody else owns those rights.
Yeah, I know. That's what they've done.
They've done.
Well, Ken,
they've undermined everybody. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Can you tell us how does this relate to the Hammonds in Harney County?
Well, when you talk about the land issues and the federal government coming in trying to take over land rights, what they've done is the reason why they're trying to do it is because they've taken all the mineral rights. They own all the mineral rights. They purchased all these mineral rights behind the backs of the Hammonds and everybody else that owns property, and they're making claims to that they own the rights. So they're undermining everybody's properties. And they're doing it through the counties. The counties, all 3,400 counties in the country are a cesspool of corruption. They withhold the documents that.
No, there's no corruption. There's no corruption in our country. Ken,
you can trust the government. Just ask an Indian.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, absolutely. Yes. But see, the point of what I'm getting at, though, is for the first. I see it as a pivotal point in history, because what we can do now is we can lay down the documents that show exactly how they've done it, exactly how they're undermining people's properties, exactly why they're throwing people off their property, exactly why people are losing their houses, and we can show that in their own words and actions of Goldman Sachs, of Wells Fargo, of the federal government, of the Federal Reserve, of the Treasury, because they've patented everything, and they hide behind this guise of, it's proprietary or it's banking secrets. Guess what, folks? There are no banking secrets, because they've written everything down to patent it, and they have to patent it so that they can run us through as grantors for their patented processes, that they come back around, make $1 billion off of us, and then come back and steal our property. And so really, when it comes down to the Hammonds, it comes down to these land issues. It's a land issue to show how the federal government and how the banks are succeeding in taking people's properties away. So this issue really goes far beyond the Hammonds. This goes to every single American citizen and homeowner in this country.
Absolutely, I agree. And they're using your signature, and it's not just your signature here on these mortgage documents, because I know they take your signature, run it right over to the discount window at the Federal Reserve, and they get 9 times the value of whatever that note was. So they have no right to foreclose on anyone. That home has been paid for 9 times over, at least.
Yes. And now we can show that it's because like I said earlier about the definition of securitization, it's an installment lease to a future repurchase. That's exactly what these mortgage loan documents are. It's not a negotiable instrument, because a negotiable instrument, once you sign that, it's all within the 4 corners. It's basically signed, sealed, and delivered, right? Well, that's not what they're doing here. What they're doing here is they're converting it into these electronic formats, and they're never closing the loan, and they're taking the signature and using the signature. And so what they've done here is they've created a system where they can use the signature to make oodles and oodles of money, and then come back, and when they come back and foreclose on us, the reason why they're so voracious about coming after people and throwing 80-year-old women out of their houses is because once they evict you, once that auction box opens up, and the golden lockbox consists.
Hope you're breaking up a little bit, Ken.
All the Pardon me?
Well, you're breaking up just a little bit there. Once they start sending 80, putting 80-year-old women out of their homes, and what were you saying there?
Okay, I was saying that the reason why they do that is because once the auction is concluded, I call it the golden lockbox, opens up. And that golden lockbox consists of all the compensation that ran through his credits, all the insurance monies, and the living estate for the next 30 years or whatever, or however long that initial loan period is supposed to. So there's millions and millions of dollars to be had by throwing people out of their houses and by getting them off their property. So I mean, this goes down to the core issue of property issues. And I came across something interesting in Black's Law Dictionary, 8th Dictionary, and this kind of really applies to what we're talking about.
Okay, which edition of Black's?
Black's Law Dictionary.
Yeah, which edition?
8th edition. Have either one of you ever heard of a term black acre?
I haven't. Have you, Norm?
No.
Well, it's defined in Black's Law Dictionary 8th edition. And black acre is the most celebrated tract of land in the world of the law. Black acre is wholly mythical, yet totally real. It is a concept living in the realm of the mind and doubly valuable since much of the law of property has the same type of reality. And so what they're saying here, it's virtual reality. Basically, they're saying that they create whatever they want to, and this is exactly what they're doing. Black acre equals securitization, equals theft of property, equals theft of rights, because there's 3 types of property that we're dealing with here. We're dealing with real property, we're dealing with personal property, and we're dealing with intellectual properties, which is what they do with our signature so that they can undermine us and steal all our property rights and create those mobile air rights and steal the mineral rights and the water rights and the timber rights and all the rights away from us. So what they've done here is they've literally created a virtual world in black acre, and it's defined in the legal dictionary. And all this stuff can be proven. I mean, all the issues that we're dealing with property owners getting thrown off their land or getting it taken away from them through eminent domain or however it's being done can be shown that it's fraudulent, that they're undermining the American citizen by doing so and doing this through all these activities.
Let me ask you, have you had any success helping people fight this sort of thing, knowing what you know?
We're just starting to. I've come out about. Like I said, I've spent about 8 years doing this, and I've dedicated my life to this. And I started coming out with this about 8 months ago, and started talking about it in the public and everything. I am currently up in. I have a case myself up that acted on up here in Columbia County, which is on appeal, which I did of course lose, but. At the same time, though, I do have the HSBC's attorney on fraud in the court, which is what my appeal is, and I do have in evidence about 2,000 documents that shows that these are licensing agreements. These contracts are fraudulent. I am also working with a gal out of Texas right now, and with an attorney, and we're just on the verge of firing up some mass joinders in Texas and also in Connecticut, and there's several other things that are going on. So we're starting to build up a core of people here and starting to talk to and getting attorneys to understand that hey, this is a real issue here, and a lot of people are starting to come around to the idea. Because my biggest thing is, okay, people, we have to stop defending these foreclosures, because every time we defend a foreclosure, every time we talk about a chain of title, what we're doing is we're affirming a debt. There is no debt, people. And so what I'm doing is trying to educate people and make people aware of this by doing shows like this and doing other shows that I'm doing and reaching out with people, starting to catch on to this. So the answer to your question is no, not as of yet. But there's a big momentum and a big push that's going to push this thing hard in the next couple months, that we're going to see these things through.
Well, good. Well, Ken, we're all for it. And so, since you're talking securitization, Norm, do you have any questions so far for Ken?
Nope, I'm following right along.
Okay, awesome. In securitization, great. I think they get you twice because they get your land, they've gotten all that from you, but then when they put you in prison, they're securitizing your name again. Are they not?
Yes, they are. They're doing it through warrants. And this is one of the things that they've done it's a method of a surety, basically, and insurance, and they do it through warrant bonds. So, yes, they got you on that end, too. They get you through your birth certificate. They get you through anything that is either a bond or they can put a name on it that says certificate. They can securitize. So, they've really taken over. Really what it is, it's they've created a feudal system of servitudes. And we're not landowners at all because they've stolen it from us. The only thing that they've given us is they've given us legal ownership for the purposes of sticking the taxes on us when they take the property away, when they come in and default you. And it's tremendously devious. And the issue that I have, what I would like to do is with the people down in Burns, is bring these. This is a good time and a very good platform to bring this to national attention. Because, in my opinion, the way I look at it, even IRS agents, FBI agents, DOJ agents, they all have families. They all have mortgages. So if you can touch these people to the fact and say, hey, listen, the mortgage you're paying, you're getting ripped off too. You're getting stolen from. You have a lease. You're paying out a lease. They should be paying you back. So if we can make that connection with people and make that connection with people across the country on this, what Burns is now a national stage, boy, imagine what we accomplished by doing that.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Ken, I want you to take a breath here for a minute. I've got to do my station ID and say you're listening to Sacred Cow BBQ. We're covering Harney County and some land issues. My newest guest to the show is a man named Ken Dost. And I want to thank Shelley and the gals from the Wellness Room for recommending him. And you're listening to Sacred Cow BBQ on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. We are listener supported. Wish we had some of that securitization going on here. We could just go and take somebody's birth certificate and have all the money we needed, but we don't. We do things the honest way. So if you'd like to buy some of the cool stuff over at freedomslips.com or get the archives or just throw us, a week's worth of coffee money, whatever you want to do. If everybody did, just $2 a month, even, we wouldn't have to make these silly announcements. So, thank you all for everyone that supports the show and the angel donors, and you know who you are. So, thank you all so much. And we're back to talking about this issue with Ken Dost, and my other guest tonight is Norm France, who did a great job. Man, I feel like I'm smarter just in these just in a short time since 7 o'clock rolled around. I know a whole lot more than I did then. And so, Ken, this is a huge wake up. I see a shift happening here. My thing is that I want to start focusing on what we want instead of fighting against what we don't want, because I think that will bring us some change faster. Because I think when what we resist persists, and so I think it's fabulous that you want to educate people. So I would love to have you back another time when we have more time. So what else would you like to tell people about this situation in Harney County and what you've learned about the fraud going on? It's wholesale. How long do you feel like this has been going on?
Oh, this is they've been doing this for centuries. There's a patent back in, there's a collection of patents back from 1905, 1912, and 1918 that are title patents, abstract title patents, and index patents. And so they've been created this system, and what it is, it's a system of secret liens. They've been doing this for a long, long time. But back then they didn't have the internet. They just had their local communities. So what you have now with the internet and with all these automated processes and these patents, it's on steroids. So I mean, it's just amplified. You've taken it to create the trillions of dollars that's out there. It's all created on BS derivatives that all go back to information that they're just repackaging and reselling. So it can't have to stop. And I'm going to stop this thing in my mind. And it's not to say to get to the national stage, to get so every day, so that all people can latch onto this and kind of get a grasp from the fact that, hey, I'm getting ripped off here. I've been living a lie for the past 15 years, and that's really what you have. When I talk to people about this stuff, it takes them a while to understand. No, this stuff can go on. You can show them the documents and everything, but I think everybody has to own aha moment. And I think what that is you have to look in the mirror and you have to really admit to yourself, you've been lied to, and you got to throw out everything you thought you knew because it's wrong. It's a lie. And this has been really going on. It's really elevated, after 2000. And because that's when the laws came into effect that allowed them to patent these processes. So it's been going on in earnest.
Ken, I got a question. I got a comment coming from Skype here for you. And these are people that know what you're talking about. Okay. With you. And someone said the bottom line, what the BLM is doing is in collusion with banks and government, as all is connected through the patents. And she said, ask him to speak in layman terms so the farmers can understand and what is the solution here. So, Ken, I want you to talk a little slower. I know you got a lot of information. We may not be able to get it all out, but just basically explain to us what patents are, because I know there are places with land patents that are not part under the jurisdiction of the federal government of the country, that people have gone and founded communities in these areas where they can control the land patents. So explain patents to me slowly, if you would.
Well, most people, the idea outside is accelerated. Sorry about that. Most people think of a patent as the telephone.
Okay.
Alexander Graham Bell or Thomas Edison, a light bulb.
Ken, hold on for just a minute. I've got to ask you again. Have you moved somewhere? I know you're on a cell phone, but we're not having as clear a connection as we did in the middle of it. And then before we
Okay.
we only got about 10 more minutes to just, and we just want to lay a foundation here. We don't have to build the whole building tonight. Just lay the foundation on it, because they also want you to say, if we have time, how the recorder's office, that recordation matter, is connected to all this. Okay?
Okay. The patents are business processes that 1998 case 60 versus Signature Financial said that business processes are to be dependable.
Oh man, this is so garbled right now. Oh gosh, do you have a landline I can call you back on?
Yeah, this is a landline you can call me back on. Yeah, let me. 503.
Mm-hmm.
Are you there?
Yep, I am.
503 543 0964.
0964. Okay. I'm going to hang up from you here and call you back on that line. Okay, because this is an interesting set of information you got. I'll be right back with you. Okay?
Okay, great.
Okay, hang up. All right, everybody, we're going to get him back on for the last few minutes here. Norm, talk to us while I'm dialing him in, if you would. You're my co-host tonight at this point.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Front Sight. Front Sight is a place where you can get quality firearm protection without the edge of having been taught by a little one. We have the Saber Red Pepper Gel or pepper spray. Great defensive use for you're out jogging or to fend off other dogs, things like that. We have knives. Knives under 3.5 inches are not considered a dangerous weapon in Clark County, which is just another tool, although I will say there are assisted blades that can be considered dangerous weapons. So you want to check with the place of purchase, the retailers, when you're buying them to ensure everything's on the up and up. But a 3.5 inch blade or less is not a dangerous weapon in Clark County. So just another defensive option. There's also lots of hand-to-hand combat. Oh.
Hey, okay. Hold on, Norm. We got to have you back too. Ken, yep. I hear that they're disabling the line is what people are assuming has happened.
Yeah, probably. Is that clear?
Yeah. Oh, much clearer.
Okay, good.
We want to know how the recorder's office is handling this. People are pinging me now, so just ignore that ping. We got you straightened out. So go back to explaining what a patent is.
Well, a patent is most people think these patents are like a telephone, but or they think it's these algorithmic, complicated mathematical expressions, and they're really not. They're really simple. They're complicated, but they're really just simple words. And what they're doing is they're creating any kind of instrument that they want to. They're creating a bond. They're creating any kind of derivative, any kind of financial instrument, whatever they want to. And they're doing it at a great speed. And the way that these work in with the recorder's office, it has to do with the way that MERS operates, Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems. MERS is not a utility function of Fannie and Freddie. It is a trademark. So trademarks do not have to record under land issues because it has nothing to do with land. A trademark, it has to do with intellectual property, to signatures, to financial goods and whatnot. So all they're required to do, and what they've done, is they record that initial assignment to the county records, and that's all they're required to do. And then, of course, when they default to you, they do the assignment via trust, which brings back that note to touch and concern with the land back to the title. But all the sales that are taking place in between that are running through the indexes that the county is keeping. So they're running through all these sales, multiple sales, time and time again through the counties, which is connected to the 1031 exchanges. And every 180 days, they're reselling these properties again, and they're repackaging them again. So they're selling these things time and time and time again, and they're hiding them behind the county recorder's office through these indexes, but also through foreclosure bonds. So every time a judge rules for foreclosure, it benefits the county and it benefits their pension funds because the bond money is released to the counties. So now you're involved with all these county administrators and county officials that are receiving foreclosure monies that are paying out by kicking people out of their houses.
Well, wait a minute. Do you have evidence that these people that work for the county, the judges and people in the recordation office, have made money off this?
Well, I do know a few people that I know. Carol Keene has evidence that MERS has paid out to judges. She's got evidence.
Somebody just sent me a message here and says, our recorder's office has destroyed records for real.
Yeah, they probably do destroy records. Absolutely, they do. The records, any kind of paper records or anything they have, they don't keep those because everything's been automated, and it's very easy to kind of wash automation away. And that's what the problem is. The problem is that these patents, Goldman Sachs, for instance, Goldman Sachs has patents that are legal customization forms and for submitting subpoenas and different types of land issues, court issues, summons, different kind of bonds, different kind of warrants, and they're pipelined right in through the counties now in the court system. Now, what the hell does Goldman Sachs have anything to do with legal documents or with the court system if they're not fixing the damn thing? And that's what the whole problem is. The whole thing is we've got a fixed system here, and it's fixed on these automated business processes that are linked together. Now, I can prove that a company called Mindbox is a programmer that caters to the banking industry and government industry as well. And this product here it's an artificially intelligent program, case reasoning program. Because remember what I said about mortgage loans? Not just mortgage loans, but everything. Nothing occurs in the present. Everything is in the future. So what you think is happening in the present, like you think you're getting a loan, you're not. What it is you're getting a lease, and they're kicking it into the future, and they're betting on when they're going to default on you or when you're going to foreclose. And then what they're doing behind your back is they're creating all these other interests in your land and your title and your water rights.
Ken, what's interesting about this is if people would just read, how they hold title, it should say you're a tenant. It's not ever saying you're an owner.
Right. Yeah, you are a tenant. Yes, you are a tenant. But see, the documents, even if you read the documents and even understood the documents at closing, you wouldn't have a good understanding of it because there's documents that are absent from that. And the one document that's absent, if you signed a MERS loan, the one document that is absent is underneath the MERS trademark. And this is a security agreement between Nations Bank and Mortgage Electronic Registration Systems. And, of course, Nations Bank is Bank of America. And what this agreement is, it's basically saying that you are agreeing to license your information to them to use in whatever fashion, manner, or form that they want to. And that's exactly what they're doing. That's where they steal your signature away from you. So even if you read through all the documents, you would still have no idea what you were actually signing. It took me 8 years to understand.
That's pretty amazing. Our friend here on Skype, she says they're selling our properties every 180 days through a 1031 exchange.
Yeah,
so you know what? I don't believe that you're from Oregon. You're not from Oregon originally, right?
No, not originally. No, originally I'm from Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay, I was even going to put you further east than that because you talk faster than me.
I'm sorry.
And I'm from Boston.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk fast. I get very passionate about this.
I know. Just slow down a little bit, because we listen fast, but it's hard to take in all the information that you're sharing. So I'd love to have you back again soon, and so we can talk about this in a more relaxed manner. I get passionate about things myself, and so I just like to slow it down a little bit and lay it out step by step. And so what I'm gonna do tonight, after we hang up from the show, is I'm going to give you Ryan Bundy's number, so you can give him a call. I'll give you Ammon's number too, and you can give him a call. And they're looking forward to meeting with you, this weekend. If you can go down and see them, they'd just like to have more bodies around, and so you'd be welcome just on that count alone. But to share this kind of information with them and show it to them. But I want you to understand, we're talking ranchers here, and so lay it out step by step, slowly for them, and so they can really understand. Because you're used to talking to a more advanced people. The folks here on Skype, oh man, they know this stuff inside and out. So they've jumped on this because they were able to, they had a whole lot of foundation, laid already. So this information just went right over the top of that perfectly. They could see how it lined up. But you're going to have to start these folks probably more from the beginning. Okay?
Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Great. Well, I can't wait. So we've got.
Can I say one more thing, real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. To say as much as you can until the music starts. And so, I just want to say you've listened to Sacred Cow BBQ. I'm just going to let Ken talk until the music starts, so we can get as much as we can from him.
The one thing that people need to know is how they did this. They based it all on Sharia law. They based it all on the principle that Muslims do not pay interest. And so what they based it on is they designed a whole system to where we're not paying interest, we're paying into a lease. And they modeled the whole economy on this. The whole global economy and the domestic economy has been based on Sharia law. And this is done by Credit Suisse, Goldman Sachs, by all the big banks. It's the frontline layer of everything that they've done. So what you have is a system that a LIBOR, LIBER system from 1905 patent.
So the LIBOR code?
LIBOR, LIBER, which goes right to, going back to Black's Law Dictionary, describing LIBOR goes right over to the papal registries. And so the Catholicism. So now you've got that in place, but now you've got also the Sharia law aspect of this that is tied in, and then you've got the Israel and the Jewish aspect of this. So you have three major religions of the world that have total control of the economy, yet they're total enemies from one another. So I think it's kind of ironic to some degree.
I don't think they're total enemies. I believe
that's a
Hegelian dialect that they just keep that going.
They can't be, because they're all in cahoots with this automated system that runs seamlessly through this automated processes. But they've set everything up on Sharia law, and it all has to do with this converting interest to leases and taking the properties behind that and securitizing the hell out of it by creating separate instruments. I mean, the patents aren't that complicated. What they really are is a mumbo jumbo of let's do whatever the hell we want to. And they do that, and they get away with that because nobody knows about them. So the point is to get people to know about these things. And because I think that once people get an idea of the fact that they are getting ripped off, that they have been lied to, that they're struggling through life, and they don't have to be struggling through life. If we stepped into the shoes of the creditor, which is what we really are, we would all be doing much better. We would be healthy. We would be productive. We wouldn't have any money problems. We wouldn't have our land stolen from us. But because this is all hidden from us,
we'd be living the way the Creator designed us to be. Somebody has a question from the chat room, and Jer's been real nice to bring that to you. He says, Patricia and her guest Norm were discussing how much money politicians make. If one peruses appropriations and outlays budget for Congress, it shows each senator spending more than $8 million each. And keep in mind, they don't pay for food, laundry, haircut, rent. Do you have a comment that you want to make on that?
Well, they don't pay for anything. They're the beneficiaries of all of this. They get, when you get politicians, you look into their pension funds. Don't look at their bank pension funds. Look at what they're keeping in technologies, because that's where all the money is flowing through. It's flowing through the technologies. So the government and the government was bought and paid for I think it was $6.1 billion between 1998 and 2002, I believe, with campaign contributions and lobbying expenses. So the government sold us out between that period, and they've got it made because they're recipients of all these things. A lot of these big government, was it not Selvane, but what was the one big thing with Obama a couple of years ago that went belly up? That was all connected with all of this stuff.
Enron.
Yes. Oh, and then if you recall when the economy collapsed, and remember when this gas prices shot way up?
Yep.
That was done by Morgan Stanley. They got a patent on it. They patented. What they did was they took their losses from the mortgage area and they converted it over to oil and gas, which drove up all the prices so they can get their compensation and their fees and their bonuses.
Doggies. That's really fascinating, Ken. I'd never seen that put together. And one of our listeners says he needs to write a book.
Everything that they've done, like I said, there's no banking secrets. There's nothing. So when you do a QWR and the servicer comes back to you and says, "Oh, that's proprietary. We don't have to tell you." Well, guess what? I remove trade secrets. Once trade secrets have been made public, they're no longer trade secrets. So consider this notice that there are no trade secrets anymore. They can't hide behind proprietary because now we can bring forth a patent. They can't hide behind banking secrets because we can show exactly what they've done.
Well, it was a barn burner tonight, everybody. Ken Dost, thank you so much. Norm France, thank you. Thank you to all the listeners, everybody in the chat room. We've had a great time here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate the invite. Thank you.
Listening to Revolution